Before we embark on this powerful journey through the pages of the Bible, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because you won't want to miss a single moment of the divine stories that shape our world. From the triumphs of heroes to the whispers of ancient prophecies, this is where timeless stories unfold, stories of faith, courage, and redemption. Every week, we bring these sacred tales to life, letting the word resonate deep in our hearts. These aren't just stories, they are life-changing. So, join us. Subscribe now, and let's step into the light together, discovering the extraordinary in the ordinary, the divine in the everyday. For centuries, stories of giants have stirred the imagination of people across the globe. These tales, found in ancient mythologies from nearly every continent, speak of towering beings with immense power, wisdom, and sometimes terrifying wrath. While many dismiss them as mere folklore, others believe these accounts contain echoes of a forgotten truth, one that has been buried by time, erased from history, and deliberately obscured. Among the most enigmatic of these legendary figures are the Nephilim, mysterious beings mentioned in ancient texts, including the Bible, where they are described as giants who once walked the earth. The Book of Genesis briefly yet strikingly introduces the Nephilim in chapter 6, stating that, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves." The result of this union was a race of giants, powerful, unnatural hybrids known as the Nephilim. These were not simply large humans, they were beings of extraordinary size and strength, often linked to the corruption and violence that spread across the pre-flood world. Their existence is intertwined with the fall of divine beings, often interpreted as rebellious angels, who crossed a forbidden boundary to interfere with humanity. This act was considered a grave transgression, one that sparked divine judgment and ultimately led to the Great Flood meant to cleanse the earth of this contamination. However, the mystery deepens when we realize that giants are mentioned again after the flood. In the books of Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Joshua, we read of entire tribes of giants, the Anakim, Rephaim, and Emim, living in the land of Canaan. Goliath of Gath, the famed enemy of David, was one such descendant. How did these giants survive the flood, which was said to have wiped out all life except for Noah and those aboard the ark? This question has puzzled theologians, historians, and seekers of hidden knowledge for generations. Some suggest that the fallen angels may have repeated their ancient sin, while others believe a remnant of the Nephilim bloodline survived through the wives of Noah's sons. The possibility that the Nephilim lived, and perhaps still live, among us raises profound questions about human history, ancient civilizations, and spiritual warfare. In many ancient cultures, including those of the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans, we find depictions of godlike beings with immense power, often credited with building megalithic structures, teaching forbidden knowledge, and ruling over early empires. Were these gods merely misunderstood Nephilim, whose presence and influence shaped the foundations of society? Today, we journey into this hidden and controversial history, attempting to shed light on the shadowy past of the Nephilim. By exploring ancient texts, apocryphal writings like the Book of Enoch, archaeological anomalies, and global legends of sky beings and giants, we begin to uncover a narrative that has long been suppressed. This is not just a story of ancient times, it's a living mystery that stretches into the present, hinting that the Nephilim may not only have walked the earth once, but that their legacy, and perhaps even their bloodline, persists to this day. As we delve deeper, we must ask, who were these giants, really? Why were they here? And most chilling of all, are they planning to return? The first direct mention of giants in the Bible appears in the Book of Genesis, a foundational text for understanding early human history from a Judeo-Christian perspective. In Genesis 6:1-4, we are introduced to a mysterious and deeply debated passage, one that has intrigued scholars, theologians, and seekers of hidden truths for centuries. It reads, "When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal, their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. This passage is brief, yet packed with profound implications. The phrase, sons of God, has sparked considerable debate. In traditional interpretations, especially those from ancient Jewish sources and early Christian writings, these sons are believed to be angelic beings, often associated with the watchers described in the apocryphal Book of Enoch. These celestial beings, according to Enoch and other ancient texts, descended to earth and took human wives, violating divine order. Their offspring were the Nephilim, a hybrid race of giants known not only for their great size and strength, but also for their violence and unnatural origins. The mention that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, is particularly provocative. It suggests that the presence of these beings was not limited to the antediluvian, pre-flood, world, but continued in some form even after the cataclysm. This line has led many to question how such creatures could have survived the flood, which was intended to cleanse the earth of corruption. Some traditions speculate that the Nephilim bloodline may have been preserved through the family of Noah, perhaps through one of his son's wives, while others propose a second incursion of fallen angels after the flood. Moreover, the description of these beings as heroes of old, men of renown, implies that they were not only feared but also revered by early human civilizations. Their legendary deeds may have been the basis for many ancient myths about demigods and titans found in other cultures, from the Greek heroes and Norse giants to the Anunnaki of Mesopotamian lore. These parallels across civilizations point to a shared memory of powerful, godlike beings who once ruled or walked among men. In Enoch, the sons of God are clearly identified as watchers, a group of 200 angels assigned to watch over humanity. They descend to Mount Hermon and make a pact to take human wives and create offspring with them. Their leader is Semjaza, and another major figure is Azazel, who teaches humans forbidden knowledge like warfare, sorcery, and cosmetics. The offspring of these unions are massive, hybrid beings, the Nephilim, described as giants who consumed all the produce of men, and when humans could no longer sustain them, they turned on mankind and even animals. Their destructive appetite and bloodshed corrupt the earth. While Genesis presents the story with subtlety, the Book of Enoch lays out a cosmic rebellion with apocalyptic consequences. The contrast reveals two layers of the same story. Genesis offers the official version, a divine mystery, while Enoch pulls back the curtain, exposing a supernatural war that changed the course of human history. The Book of Enoch, a sacred text in ancient Jewish tradition, expands upon the story of the Nephilim. According to 1 Enoch 6:1-2, "And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them fair and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the daughters of men, and beget us children. And they were in all 200, who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. The watchers, angels sent to guard humanity, fell from grace, choosing to mate with human women. Their offspring, the Nephilim, became giants, but these children also brought corruption and chaos. They were not merely mighty warriors, but symbols of rebellion, of forbidden knowledge and defiance against God's plan. The flood came as a divine judgment, a cleansing of the earth. But the giants, the Nephilim, were not entirely erased. After the flood, giants reappeared in the land of Canaan. The Bible records their terrifying return in Numbers 13:33. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. Numbers 13:33, NIV. The descendants of Anak, giants who were said to inhabit the land of Canaan, were seen by the Israelites as insurmountable foes. The fear of these giants was so great that it nearly prevented the Israelites from claiming the promised land. Among the most notable giants mentioned in the Bible is Og, king of Bashan, a formidable figure whose legacy echoes through both scripture and regional folklore. His brief yet powerful description appears in Deuteronomy 3 verse 11, a passage that has fascinated scholars and theologians for centuries. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the Rephaim. His bed was made of iron, and it is still in Rabbah of the Ammonites. It is more than 13 feet long and 6 feet wide. Deuteronomy 3 verse 11, NIV. The detail about Og's enormous bed, measuring over 13 feet long and 6 feet wide, is not merely symbolic. It is provided as tangible evidence of his extraordinary size, suggesting that Og was no ordinary man, but a remnant of a once powerful and terrifying race known as the Rephaim. The Rephaim are repeatedly referenced throughout the Old Testament as a race of giants who dwelled in the region east of the Jordan River, particularly in Bashan, Ammon, and Moab. They were considered remnants or descendants of the Nephilim, the hybrid beings born of the union between the sons of God and human women in the antediluvian world. Og's survival and kingship represent not only a biological anomaly but also a spiritual and symbolic continuation of the ancient Nephilim bloodline. Despite the devastating judgment of the flood, these giant lineages appear to have persisted, or re-emerged, in the post-flood world, occupying key territories in the Promised Land and presenting formidable challenges to the Israelites during their conquest. In fact, the fear of giants is one reason the Israelites initially hesitated to enter Canaan, as recorded in Numbers 13, where the spies report, "We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." Perhaps the most iconic giant in biblical history is Goliath of Gath, the Philistine warrior famously defeated by the young shepherd David. His story is told in 1 Samuel 17, where Goliath is described as a champion of war, standing over 6 cubits and a span tall, approximately 9 feet 9 inches, about 3 meters. Clad in heavy bronze armor and wielding weapons far beyond the size of a normal man, Goliath taunted the Israelite army for 40 days, challenging anyone to face him in single combat. Goliath's arrogance was matched by his lineage. He was not just a lone giant but part of a larger family of giants, possibly tied to the Rephaim or Anakim. Later texts confirm that Goliath had 4 giant relatives, some with 6 fingers and toes, 2 Samuel 21 verses 15 to 22, 1 Chronicles 20 verses 4 to 8, suggesting a genetic trait and a surviving giant bloodline among the Philistines. These, descendants of Rapha and Gath, were formidable warriors, and their repeated confrontations with Israel underscore an ongoing conflict between God's chosen people and the remnants of the ancient giants. The presence of giants in the Bible is not simply a strange historical footnote, it represents an ongoing spiritual battle between the corrupted seed of rebellion and the holy seed of promise. From the Nephilim of Genesis to the Rephaim of Bashan, and from the Anakim of Hebron to the Philistine giants of Gath, these figures symbolized resistance to God's plan and instilled fear in even the most faithful hearts. Yet time and again, it was not size or strength that prevailed, but faith, obedience, and the power of divine calling. Whether it was David with a sling, or Caleb with unwavering courage, these victories were declarations that no matter how terrifying the opposition, God's purpose would not be thwarted. Throughout history, giants were not confined to the Bible alone. Ancient cultures around the world have their own stories of giant beings. In Greek mythology, we have the Titans, immense beings who ruled before the Olympian gods. In Norse mythology, the Jotnar, or giants, were a race of powerful beings who battled the gods. Even in the ancient Near East, Cultures like the Babylonians and Assyrians spoke of giants in their myths and legends. These stories share striking similarities to the biblical account of the Nephilim, suggesting that the concept of giants was widespread among early civilizations. The giants of the past were not the final threat to humanity. As foretold in the scriptures, a final reckoning is coming. A time when the Son of God, Jesus Christ, will return to earth, not as a humble servant, but as the conquering king. And in the days leading to his return, the legacy of the Nephilim, the fallen ones, will resurface once more. In Matthew 24 verses 37 to 39, Jesus himself warns, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. The return of Christ will bring a decisive end to the reign of the fallen, including the giants who once walked the earth. The Nephilim may have once been agents of destruction, but in the end, they will be cast down by the glory of God, their reign of terror forever broken." Although much of the evidence for giants is buried in legend, there are strange reports and archaeological findings that suggest a connection between these ancient stories and reality. Over the years, explorers and archaeologists have uncovered what they claim are the remains of giants. In 1911, skeletal remains, claimed to be from a giant over 12 feet tall, were found in the Americas. Though many of these findings have been debunked, some researchers still believe that evidence of giant-like beings exists. Whether these giants were truly the Nephilim or simply a product of human exaggeration, they continue to intrigue scholars and researchers to this day. The giants, the Nephilim, and their descendants left an indelible mark on history. Whether they were fallen angels, mighty warriors, or symbols of corruption, their legacy continues to haunt us. The secrets of their existence remain buried in ancient texts, forgotten ruins, and cryptic artifacts, but the story of the giants is one that refuses to fade. The question remains, were the Nephilim truly as legendary as the Bible describes? Did they walk the earth, leaving a trail of fear and destruction? And what role did they play in shaping the ancient world? The truth, as always, may be more complicated than we can imagine, buried beneath centuries of myth, fear, and revelation. But one thing is certain, the return of Christ will put an end to all things, and the forces of darkness, including the Nephilim, will be no more. In a world once overshadowed by giants, corruption, and rebellion, where the echoes of the Nephilim and the Watchers still linger in ruins, in DNA, in deception, there remains a light undimmed by darkness. Yes, the ancient texts speak of giants, of the sons of Anak, of Goliath, of mighty beings who shook the earth. The Book of Enoch warns of the Watchers, those who descended and defiled creation. The flood came as judgment, but also as mercy. A reset. A second chance. And yet, even after the waters receded, evil found its way back in. From the towers of Babel to modern-day laboratories manipulating genomes, mankind continues to reach into forbidden realms. The same rebellion that brought down angels still whispers to us through power, pride, and knowledge divorced from truth. But God, in His mercy, did not abandon us. He sent His Son. Where giants oppressed, Jesus came to set captives free. Where the Watchers corrupted, Jesus came to purify. Where the blood of giants cried out for domination, the blood of Christ cries out for salvation. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life. John 3 verse 16. The return of Christ will not be a myth. It will be a reality. The heavens will split. The King will ride. The Judge will stand. And all will kneel. But today, right now, there is still time. Not to trust in your strength. Not to put faith in science, bloodlines, or forgotten power. But to believe in Jesus Christ, the true and final ark, the only way to rise above the flood of sin. He doesn't call the perfect. He calls the willing. He doesn't need giants, he needs faith. Believe in the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, you and your household. Acts 16 verse 31. So the question remains. When the sky cracks open, and the King of Glory returns, will you be ready? Salvation isn't found in ancient secrets or forbidden knowledge. It is found in the cross. In the empty tomb. In the Lamb who was slain, and is coming again as the Lion of Judah. Choose today whom you will serve. Choose Christ. And live.